Hey, how's it going? Peg Leg Page here, the One Foot Gamer. Today I thought we'd look at 10 classic D&D monsters that are absolutely going to wreck your day. These monsters will either absolutely overwhelm the parties and characters who are supposed to be fighting them, or they have abilities that are going to permanently damage your character in some way long after the fight is over. First one we're going to look at here is the Carrion Crawler. These are basically 9-foot long centipedes with armored heads and a whole bunch of tentacles coming out of the front, and they each get 8 paralyzation attacks per round. Now, these guys have 3+1 hit dice. That means 3d8 plus a total of 1. And they appear in groups of 1 to 6. Now, I've only ever seen these used one at a time in published material. I actually only remember one of them showing up in something. But according to the monster guides here, they show up in groups. And a group of them that either have surprise or encountered at short range or even win initiative can easily result in an entire dead party in short order, with every single character paralyzed within a round or two. Then the Carrion Crawlers eat the bodies, leaving nothing to be raised for the dead. Think about it. 3 of these guys come out. They've got 24 attempts to paralyze the characters. Half of those hit. There's 12 saving throws to be made. Half those saves are made. You've got 6 paralyzed characters. What's your average group? 6? See? Number 2, the Death Dog. This is under the dog entry in the AD&D 2nd edition monster manual. Not sure if it appears in any of the other ones. But here we go. These are 2-headed dogs, and they only have 2+1 hit die. But they appear in massive groups, 5d10 of them. Your average there is 27. And they each get 2 attacks per round. Each attack does d10 damage, which is pretty rough to begin with. But they also inflict a fatal rotting disease if the save is failed. And the size of the average group of these dogs, combined with the number of attacks, assures that the average group of death dogs is going to make a lot of successful attacks before they are defeated. You know, assuming it takes the average PC group 3 rounds to defeat the average death dog group, then the death dogs are going to make 108 attack rolls in those 3 rounds. And that's going to certainly result in some failed saving throws. And these are the sort of thing that would often be fought before a spell such as Remove Disease exist. And the rotting disease that these things have isn't immediately apparent either. Our third one is Becky Dragons. No, that's not a new color of dragon. I mean dragons in the regular D&D rules line, the basic expert companion, masters, and immortal set. Now, dragons are powerful foes in every version of the game, but Becky Dragons take it to that next level with their breath weapon. In Becky, a dragon's breath weapon does damage equal to its current hit points, save for half, of course. These breath weapons often have an incredible range or area effect. So, do you think say like a small red dragon? Seems like a 10th level party could just eat up a small red dragon, right? I don't know. The average one has a breath weapon that's going to do 45 damage over a huge area. That straight up kills the average magical user and rogue up to 9th level, even if they make their save. It's going to kill all your followers. It's going to kill all your torch bearers. It's going to kill all your henchmen. It's got a 70% chance of killing 10th level mages, a 60% chance of killing 15th level mages, and still has a 50% chance of killing 20th level mages. And the 45 damage also straight up kills average 10th level fighters, clerics, elves, dwarves, and halflings who fail their save. So basically, you go up against this small red dragon at 10th level, everyone who fails their saving throw against the breath weapon dies. And then if the dragon hasn't taken significant damage yet, it can simply breathe again the next round. Who's left then? Maybe the fighter and the dwarf with 4 hit points each? Good luck, fighter and dwarf. And note, that's just a small-sized dragon, and the dragons have a lot of attacks and other abilities in addition to their breath weapon. You do not want to fight a dragon in Becky. Every Becky dragon encounter I ever remembered either consisted of the characters getting surprise on the dragon and killing it before it could do much of anything, or the dragon breathing and the entire party being annihilated. Next up is the Ghost/Haunt. It's listed as the ghost under some versions of the game and the haunt in others. These are the spirit of humans. They got the look of your Ghostbusters ghost, you know, that kind of see-through ectoplasmic look. What these things want to do is they want to use magic jar on characters to take them over. But it's their other attack that truly ruins characters. Just seeing a ghost is going to age your character 10 years and cause them to flee for 20 minutes to 2 hours. Unless, of course, they make their save. And their touch attack ages the character 10 to 40 years. And anything killed by a ghost is forever dead and cannot be raised. So let's say you fought a ghost and you had a pretty good ghost encounter. Now, of course, half the party and all the hirelings failed to save. They were all aged 10 years, and they fled full speed for a random amount of times. Certainly ended up far separated from each other in very dangerous areas. And the ghost fails the magic jar, so it moves on to combat. And it only manages to strike 2 blows. It's a very smart creature, so it picks the thief with the worst, because that's the character with the worst armor class around. It hits that thief twice before it was defeated, taking that 25-year-old thief to 75 years old. It just permanently ruined that character in one encounter. Your Becky Ghosts are listed under Haunt instead of under Ghost. They're even worse as they have more defenses, and they throw in permanent constitution loss to go along with the aging. And the only apparent counters to the aging are hard to find potions of longevity, which I believe only take D4 plus 1 years off the character, maybe D6 plus 1, not a lot, and wish spells, which can, I believe, take 10 years off the age of a character. Take a lot of both of them to get 50 years back off the character, don't you think? All right, our next up is... 4.5. I numbered things wrong. Number 4.5 here is Ghouls. Ghouls, we'll just call them a special mention. They only make this list because encountering them without a cleric, without a wizard ball, with a fireball loaded up, is basically an instant death sentence for groups of the levels likely to encounter them in the first place. Your average Ghoul pack's got a lucky 13 members, each of which can use 3 paralyzation attacks per round, claw, and bite. That's 39 hit rolls per round. Each successful hit requires a save against paralyzation. Now, your Ghoul paralyzation only lasts D6 plus 2 rounds, but it might as well be permanent in most cases. Let's give the PCs the best possible chances to fight these Ghouls. Let's give this a party of 6 third-level fighters. Let's give them all plate mail, shield, and sword plus 1. Even a little bit of strength bonus. We'll run it using the Becky rules. Given that situation, statistically, at the end of the first round of combat, if the fighters won the initiative, then at the end of that first round, there'll be 9 Ghouls left, and only 2 to 3 unparalyzed fighters. If they tied on initiative, then at the end of the first round, you'll only have 1 fighter who's not paralyzed, and there'll be 9 Ghouls left. If the Ghouls win the initiative, there'll be 1 unparalyzed fighter left and 12 to 13 remaining Ghouls. And in all cases, the Ghouls overwhelm the fighters the next round. Then they either eat the entire party or convert them to Ghouls. Either way, no one is going to go retrieve and raise third-level characters unless you're in a very strange campaign. So the whole party's dead because they encountered Ghouls without a fireball or a cleric. Fifth up, I'm going to pronounce this wrong for sure, your Lernaanian Hydra. Remember your Hydra? It's your wingless dragon with a whole bunch of necks and heads. This is the version for mythology that grows 2 new heads for every one that is cut off. Now, this monster is essentially impossible to defeat if the players don't already know that they have to burn the necks of the severed heads. You'd think, oh, well, I know that, so everybody else is going to know it. Now, it's entirely possible, if you take the wrong mix of players, that none of them will know that this even comes from mythology. The study of mythology is not as broad spread as it used to be back when old guys like me were kids. A lot of kids today, they could tell you all about the mythology of Harry Potter and Twilight, but they don't know their Greek mythology at all. So one of these things could have completely overwhelmed a party who should be able to take out 5 of them. Number 6, your Demilich. This first appeared in the Tomb of Horrors, that 1970 whatever Death Trap module. Now this thing is the end stage of the Lich. It's basically a skull with a mouth full of gems. and it can Death Ray and Soul Trap. It's an extremely complex monster that's almost a trap. As a side effect, if you somehow live through it, it does bestow a curse that removal of the curse causes permanent charisma loss. But if you live through it, it's amazing to begin with. Because it's nearly immune to everything except for an arbitrary handful of spells and weapons. And those killed by a Demilich are likely lost forever because they will have been sucked into the soul gems that the Demilich has in its mouth, unless a very arbitrary method is used to bring them back, and even that's likely to fail. The problem with this monster is it's essentially impossible to defeat unless you know its very arbitrary weaknesses. And then it becomes almost effortless. Like, all it takes is an Ethereal Wizard casting, I believe it's Power Word Kill, and it defeats it in one shot. Or there's a couple of spells that will defeat it in 2 shots. This makes it a terrible monster because it's unlikely the high-level party encountering this monster will even have the correct spells memorized to hurt it in the first place, nor will it have the exact combination of character class and magic weapon to do more than 1 point of damage to it at a time. That's why it is an awful monster. Number 7. And think about it. Most people encountering a Demilich have somehow managed to live through the Tomb of Horrors, and then they die to this thing. Your number 7, your Mind Flayer. Not in the SRD if you only play SRD games. The Mind Flayers are humanoids with an octopus-like head. They have a whole bunch of different mental abilities, including an area effect stun. But what makes them terrifying and really unfair is that they appear in groups. And they have 90% magic resistance, and all saves against their effects are at -4. Now, here's the thing. Imagine a group of 4 of these things appear, and you're having to make 4 saving throws against being stunned per round, all of which are at -4. Say you're a 9th level group of characters, which is an appropriate level of group of characters fighting Mind Flayers. Your 9th level fighter only has a 1.5% chance of not being stunned round 1. Cleric and Thief have less than a 1% chance of making all 4 of those saves. Now, the Mage does have a 2.5% chance of making the saves, but the Mind Flayer is essentially immune to magic. 90% magic resistance, then it still has saving throws, so good luck for the Mage fighting that Mind Flayer. Once the Mind Flayer stuns the whole group, then they can charm them, eat their brains, or just stun them again at their leisure. Our 8th up is a group, level draining undead. Wights, wraiths, specters, vampires. These things permanently drain levels at a touch, so even a successful encounter could set character back dozens of game sessions, or back to the beginning of their career, if not back to dead, because those usually appear in groups as well. Number 9, Willowwisp. Big ball of electricity. Now, these are notable because they have one of the best armor classes in classic D&D, better than actually most gods and demigods and things that have stats like that. Most characters are going to need a natural 20 to hit them at any level in which the game is normally played, and they're immune to nearly all spells, only being affected by protection from evil. Yep, that'll keep one character safe from them. Magic missile. Better have multiple magic missiles available, though, because they do have an average of 40 hit points. And Maze, which is a 9th level spell. Any group capable of casting Maze isn't going to be threatened by a Will-O-Wisp in the first place, so that might as well not even be there. They don't do a huge amount of damage, but they can take out most wizards in 2 to 3 rounds before they move on to the other characters, and if they take a lot of damage or whatever, they can just decide to blink out of existence for a while and come back later. So they're unlikely to even be defeated in the first place. Number 10 on our list is Demigods. Both the AD&D Monster Manual and the Rules Cyclopedia just casually toss in some demigod creatures as if they're just another thing that the characters would fight. Beckme in the Rules Cyclopedia includes the Dragon Rulers, which are the Dragon Gods. They're immortal dragons of insane power, each of which is always accompanied by 8 huge dragons of maximum hit points. Remember, Beckme dragons do breath weapon damage the same amount as their hit points. No Beckme character, or it's extremely unlikely any Beckme character, is going to be able to live through 8 breath weapons from maximum size huge dragons, not mentioning the breath weapon of the Dragon Ruler itself. Now, in 1st edition, they included a whole bunch of named demons and devils. I'm only going to look at a couple of the favorites here. You've got Orcus with his wand, the Prince of Undead. He has 120 hit points. while you can find his Thaco in a chart in the Dungeon Master's Guide, nothing in first or second edition, I believe. Well, he doesn't exist in second edition, but nothing in first edition says how many hit dice he's supposed to have. So things like his saving throws are an absolute mystery. However, the D&D Immortal set suggests that he has 39 hit dice. So we'll go with that. The problem with Orcus, from a Game Master's perspective, makes him terrible to run if you're actually going to make him show up, is he can do about 35 different things, but he can really only do one of them at a time. So it's very difficult to suggest the right thing to do in any given round. So if he's somehow all by himself, yes, that high-level party could just take him out hit point wise before he could beat anything. But Orcus is the prince of undead, and he controls a whole bunch of other demons, so he is very unlikely to be by himself. So instead it becomes this nightmarishly difficult encounter with all these other demons who are gating in more demons on their own. And thus the players don't have a chance regardless of their level. Other favorite, Demogorgon. Demogorgon is not the weak thing you saw in Stranger Things. By the way, I've got the miniature. This is a real one from the early 80s too. This is not the modern reproduction. Demogorgon has 200 hit points. Same mystery hit dice problem as Orcus, although the DM's Guide to the Immortals from the basic D&D series suggests that he has 40 hit dice. Demogorgon has the same problem with Orcus. He has way too many different abilities, and many of them never seem to be the right one to use in any given situation. However, the version of Demogorgon in the Immortal set is so much more powerful to the point where mortal characters just have no chance against it. The fact is, it can move both its heads around to do a mass charm of creatures of 30 hit dice, and creatures of 30 hit dice or less are just charmed with no save. That just sort of wins the thing right there. Sure, you might have one character in the group, in that high-level group, who has something that keeps them from being charmed. So, yeah, there's one character. Now you've got one character soloing off against Demogorgon. That's going to work. Now, if you got this far, thanks. I hope you hit that subscribe button. I'm mostly in it for the subscribers. And I'm sure I've missed a bunch of monsters from supplementary materials that either completely overrun the party that's supposed to fight them, or who have powers that permanently affect the character long after the fight is over. Why don't you post those below in the comments? Remember, I'm always buying D&D and other RPG game material. Sell those on eBay to make my living. Get a hold of me on Instagram if you want to do that. Thanks, and I hope to see you again soon.